Okay, it looks like we have about 100 and almost 100, we're pushing 150 people on this morning's call. So that's exciting, the number keeps climbing. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a few weeks since we've had one of these calls. So lots of great information to share. And with that, we'll jump right in with me handing it over to Jess.
Hey, good morning everyone. Happy Friday. And wanted to provide some updated information on things that are going on with the division. We have had several informational updates that have come out recently, and I know that with the abundance of emails that we all get, it's often when you get kind of a DD update, you may not have time to really look it through, or kind of one of those things where if it's not a fire, I'm not going to put it out right now. So I kind of just wanted to talk through and level set on some things that have come out recently. So we'll talk through those first. And let me get to sharing my screen. I think I need the ball from you for that, Pica. All right, thank you. All right, there we go. Okay, so one of the first things that we sent out actually just earlier today was letting everyone know that we are getting a lot of questions about level 1 med aid, and just to make sure that we respond to those in a timely manner and can make sure those get to the right person, we have created a specific inbox for those questions. So that could be regarding the training. It could be regarding the waiver amendment process that we are going through right now to request a new exception to the high school diploma. And then at this point, right now, as it stands in the waiver, you're required to obtain your GED within 1 year of employment. And so the waiver amendment process that we are working through would adjust that to say that there is a new exception to having a high school diploma in order to be a DSP, but also to have qualify as that level 1 med aid is the ability to take the new certification level trainings that have come out from the division recently. And you can find those on our in Relias, but also on the value-based payment information page. There's a lot of information out there on those. So not quite yet, but the trainings are available and out there, and we are awaiting CMS approval on that amendment that would allow for individuals to remain be eligible for DSP employment if they did not have a high school diploma, if they had taken the two level 2 certification of training within those training programs that came out. So the next update that I wanted to share is our In the Loop newsletter that came out recently for families, and make that just a little bit bigger for everybody. Not letting me do it. There we go. I can get all the right buttons. So did want to call attention, if you know of families who may be interested, we have free family coaching workshops, and those are the 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month, and from 6 to 7 p.m. So you can share that information with families in your area. We also had some back to school resources that we sent out. I know a lot of our families really are looking for information about how to best approach the support they need through the education system. So Missouri Parents Act is federally funded, and it's a Parent and Training Information Center. So they have a lot of information and training topics about the IEP process, how to effectively advocate, just a lot of information that our families are really looking for. Also, we put out information about value-based payments just to help our individuals understand and talk about the VBP webpage on there. So there is a link there. the connection system, which I know is going to be really life-changing for our, not only for our staff and our providers, but especially for our individuals and families. They will have access to their information, their case, their ISP, be able to send messages to their case manager, their support coordinator, through their person portal, and also have the ability to sign documents that way. So that's in 80% complete, very exciting. We also wanted to make sure that we were letting everyone know that there are new easy readers available with some great topics. So housemates and you, really kind of getting at how to make the most of that relationship, how to have a good relationship, what you need to know about choosing a home, and self-direction. That's a really exciting one to have that out now. Surveys, what about all the surveys the division sends out? So this is a great complement to any survey that an individual would receive, to have this easy reader available with that. And then also just a breakdown of our waivers and understanding those, which can be challenging at times, even if you've been in waivers for 2 decades. So I'm really excited about the new easy readers that are coming out, and appreciate our staff's work on all of those. So another informational blast that came out that you probably really want to pay attention to is the fact that we do have CSRs open for comment. So some of these CSRs are quite old and outdated. So updated procedures are really updated to reflect what we're doing today. And so those are open for comment until September 16th. All right, so the next, there are 2 separate EDV memos that came out. So if you are a provider of personal care, or if you are an individual who receives personal care, or if you may get questions from personal care providers, these would probably be very helpful to you. It's a new process, and so there's bound to be things that we learn along the way. But a lot of the questions come around the memo field, which is a required portion for electronic visit verification. And so that's the electronic time in and time out that was required by the Federal Cures Act and went into effect about a year ago. So this is part of that process. And so really the electronic visit verification at this point is a lot about making sure that everything is correct in the fields and that the data can flow appropriately to the state system, because it will become the mechanism for billing verification at a point in the future. So this is really making sure that everyone understands the requirements in the EDV systems, those progress notes, what might get you to a point where it would be rejected for somewhat seems like a silly reason, but just making sure that everybody understands completely how to use that, so that when the data is sent over to the state, what we call an aggregator system, where it sucks in all of the data, that will in the future be used for verification for payment for the personal care visits. We just want to make sure everybody is up and ready for that. This is also something that we're tying to, we know that the upgrades are to the system, and all of the training that's required for staff is time consuming. And so we want to make sure that we are rewarding providers who are really taking the time to do that. And so there is an incentive payment for value-based payments that is tied to EDV visits and the data going through at an 80% accuracy rate. And so that is actually in review. Those value-based payment incentive payments are under review by CMS right now. So we are looking forward to an approval to implement the value-based payments in time for January 1st. So look for more information on that. There is also a, wanted to call attention to the fact that we did have a rate study stakeholder meeting, and thank everyone who was able to participate in that. We're going through the process of updating our rate study, and we are required to do this every 5 years by CMS. And a big part of that is, of course, gathering the data and analyzing the trends and working with our actuarial partner, Mercer. But a bigger part of that is taking that data and speaking with our stakeholders, providers, everyone who is out there and saying, okay, we need feedback on this data, and we need your information about this data so that we can have the full picture as we complete the rate study refresh. So that is the first of the stakeholder meetings, and we will be having additional stakeholder meetings throughout the late summer and fall as we go through that process. So we know that everyone is limited on time, so we appreciate the fact that people take time out of their busy schedules to do that. So the provider notice portal, which we are very excited about and proud of, so that we are not living in 1994 anymore and sending everything by paper and mail and playing phone tag and wasting all of our time, is the electronic notice portal, really just effectively known as the provider notice portal. So step one of that was to make sure that anything of where we were providing notice, we have providers giving notice as a contractor with that they were sending those through the provider notice portal, allowing us to receive those electronically, make sure that it gets to the right person very timely, that can start to be addressed. And it also gives the provider a electronic copy of what they submitted, kind of date and timestamp for your records, which I know is just a really important part of that. So look for us to move forward and have more of the types of communication between our stakeholders and the division go into the provider portal. And so there will be sub pieces of the portal, like one for notice and, one that may be for a different type of communication in the future. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. The other thing is that if you don't get a chance to attend the webinars that we have quite frequently, that you can always go and watch the recorded version of the webinar. And this is what I have to do a lot of the time, because I'll have kind of overlapping or something that comes up at the last minute. So there was a statewide provider meeting on August 18th with a lot of great information and updates from all areas of the division. So you can view the recorded webinar, the presentation, and the transcript out there. And so you can kind of scroll down through here. There was a recent webinar on employment for support coordinators and how to best enhance the employment services that we offer. The shared living rate methodology changes we got some separate feedback on that. As we are working through the rate study refresh, we know that shared living is one of those services where we may need to change the way that we build that rate. And right now it's in tiers, but we know other states do it very differently. So we just want to make sure that we're getting the information to make sure that we're paying in the right methodology. Some services are paid in 15-minute units, some services are paid on a daily rate or just by a visit. This one's on a tiered rate. And so we just want to make sure that the way that we're making that payment makes sense with regard to how it's being delivered. this one's a great one, what to expect from an environmental accessibility adaptation consultation. That's not something that we are doing all of the time usually, and as individuals who are in need of that, it may be something that you really come across not very often, because for individual might use this only once or twice or never at all in their service planning. So kind of knowing what to expect will be helpful, I hope. We did have a value-based payment stakeholder session, several sessions, and so those are available. This one, the target audience was service providers, but we have separate for targeted case management entities and then for individuals and families. So you can view those. So I will not bore you. Oh, there's the one. Okay, so I won't bore you by going through all of these, but just know that those are out there for kind of that just-in-time learning when you're like, oh, I've got a individual who could probably benefit from assistive technology or remote support, or oh gosh, I have someone who needs an environmental accessibility home mod, and you can go out there and do that kind of just-in-time type learning to understand and better provide those services. Also, Mental Health Mondays is something that we started doing in July, and this is reflective of the fact that we are really putting a focus in the department on our individuals that we serve in Department of Mental Health being all of our individuals. And this is making sure that we are treating the whole person holistically, and in recognition that so many of the individuals that we serve have a need in both areas, both from a Division of Developmental Disabilities, from their developmental disability perspective, but also from behavioral health, the substance use disorder, or the behavioral health concern that might be a part of their treatment, and how those two work together, how we can better serve. So a lot of the information that's coming out in Mental Health Mondays right now is really laying a foundation of information about kind of how much of our population is this, and that's kind of the first one, what is this, why are we doing it? And then as you get into more of the things that we sent out in August, you'll see information on specific things that you can do in as a developmental disability stakeholder, provider, case manager, to make sure that you are taking into account the behavioral health needs of that individual and the aspects of their life, and it gives you kind of tools and tips there. And also, just as an organization, there is information in there that really could be useful as far as like positive supports and training in that area that can be useful to you as an organization or a team, but also on the individual level. So that information is out there, and as we get into more of the maybe specific initiatives that the division and department are working on together to grade the services and ensure that we are kind of serving as one entity, helping with system navigation, we'll expect that the Mental Health Mondays to have more of that information in them. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now, and then let Heike let me know if there are any questions that came up before I turn it over.
Jess, there is one question in the chat box. When can we expect an official announcement from the division about which TCMs will be expanding as a result of the RFI?
Okay, so those award letters have been sent out, and we've also let anyone know who had a proposal that was not accepted, we've let them know as well. So it's not, hasn't, I don't think, been a normal part of the process to really make an official announcement about where the awards went and when, but I think that in the spirit of transparency, which we absolutely want to have, we will get that information out. So it's just a matter of us putting it together now at this point. So great question. And I will turn it over since there's no other, oh, go ahead.
No, there's no other questions. That's what I was just gonna let you know.
Awesome, okay, so I will hand it over to Emily to provide the next round of updates.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am going to start off by providing an update on our amendments and waiver renewal process that we are currently working on. I think I've shared in the past, or you might have been on other calls with me about the several different amendments we have as a division that we're working on. The health assessment and coordination, which is your Station MD, adding that to the waivers and rate methodology amendment, is currently with CMS under review. The division received informal requests for additional information on the amendment from CMS last week, and the responses were returned to CMS this week. So this amendment is the amendment that contains the rate methodology changes, which need to be approved to implement the remainder of our rate increases we have for our services. So what this means is that CMS is engaged in the review process. We're working with them to respond to any questions that they have on those rate methodology changes and the addition of the health assessment coordination service to our waivers, and as well as the change for waiver year to ISP year for monitoring of our environmental adaptation accessibility service, our specialized medical equipment service, and assistive technology and crisis intervention. Those 4 services will be moved from a waiver year monitoring or limit to an ISP year, so correlate with the individual's ISP. The other amendment that the division is working on is the value-based payment amendment. Along with that amendment, included in that amendment is our DSP education exception and our EAA max limit change. The DSP education exception will allow for, in place of a GED or a high school diploma, completion of the level 1 DSP level 1 training within a year of employment. And our EAA max will be changed from $10,000 per individual per year to $20,000 per individual every 2 years. The VBP team met with the VBP ad hoc committee earlier this week. We went through comments that we have received through an informal review process with CMS on our VBP incentives. You may have heard about our value-based incentives. We have 9 of them that we're planning to implement starting January 1st of 2023, pending approval by CMS. The ad hoc committee provided feedback on the comments that we received from CMS, the waiver incentive language that we've put together, and any outstanding questions on the incentive payments. To follow up on that, our VBP amendment went out for public comment today. So MoHealthNet put the VBP amendment out for review or for comment. And I'm sure that I haven't seen a blast yet from MoHealthNet, but the division will also send a blast with that information and how to respond with comments or questions. So we're moving forward with our VBP amendment, which is exciting. And then lastly, we have our MoKids and Partnership for Hope waiver renewals that are due July of 2023, so next year in July. We've completed informal public comment for the proposed changes. That was completed in June. That was our informal as a division. And we're finalizing the renewals applications for submission to MoHealthNet in the next within the next month for waiver renewals. So we got quite a few quite a few amendments, waiver changes, that sort of thing going on right now. Trying to move all of them forward so that we're successful in getting those rates out to our providers, those that haven't been implemented yet for those services, as well as getting value-based payments and our waiver renewals moving forward. And that's all I have. Do we have some questions for me on those?
Any questions in the chat on that? Just wanted to say a huge thank you to Emily and her team. She's being not as, not bragging. You're not bragging as much as you should, because that is a ton of work and a ton of waiver amendments that will make a huge difference for the individuals that we serve, especially just something as little, it seems little, but the amount of questions that came in about changing the year from a waiver year to an ISP year for those home mods and medical equipment and assistive tech. That is, it was like, oh, how do I explain to CMS that a waiver year means nothing to our individuals? They see their plan year. And so the fact that we've been doing it on a waiver year is kind of bananas. Just really excited about the difference that will make for individuals. So thank you. And I will.
I do have one question that popped up in here. A request to repeat those services that will change from waiver year monitoring to ISP year. That's your EAA or your home mod vehicle modifications, SME or your specialized medical equipment, assistive technology, and crisis intervention. One reason, I think it makes really good sense to be correlating with your ISP, kind of improves tracking of those limits. Another thing, one other reason that kind of pushed us towards that is that's something in connection, keeping consistency and connection for the system as we move towards implementing connection. So just kind of the background on that change.
Yeah, appreciate it. So that will implement, great question. When will that implement? It will be effective with the waiver amendment. And so that is in review at CMS right now. So Emily, that's not something that that's not something we're backdating. That's going forward with new waiver authorizations, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be, so that's the, like I just mentioned, that's the waiver amendment that we have with CMS right now, including the health assessment and the rate methodology changes. We talk mostly about those two things because they're kind of the bigger things, but the ISP change is included in that one. So as soon as we get approval for that, that's when it will be effective. Can't really guess when they'll approve. Expecting next month, sometime in next month that we'd get that approval, but we can't make them approve it. So
yeah, I appreciate the question though, because it does get a little confusing, and we'll at that time normally, like when there is a waiver amendment approved, we'll send out the guidance and education about hereto going forward now that the amendment has been approved, here's how this will work. And then but it is confusing because we did an Appendix K to make sure that the rates would go into effect retroactively to July 1st. We wanted to make sure the funding got back to where it needed to be. So normally we wouldn't do a new requirement on services retroactively, but in order to get the rates out, we are doing that one retroactively. So good questions, and we will turn it over to Denise for some updates.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Denise Limback, and I serve on the division's clinical operations team, and my role for the team is the state operated programs clinical coordinator. I'm excited to be here with you this morning and to be able to share some information. We will be having our second annual RN Oversight webinar this fall. It will be on September 29th from 10 to 3, and we'll have an hour break for lunch during that time. It's also virtual so that the oversight or community RNs can call in or log in with their computers. We will have speakers on topics such as DMH, DD 101, and the RN oversight's role, hospice and palliative care, dental health for individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, assistive technology with a demonstration on medication administration technology, and emergency preparedness. This, of course, is not an all-inclusive list, so we will be sending out an email blast with registration information, with an agenda in the next few weeks, so be looking for that. I also have an update on the Missouri Health Risk Screening Tool, which we also call HRST. Currently, we have 9 residential service providers that are actively screening individuals, and a total of 31 residential service providers who have started the HRST or HRST onboarding process. We also have support coordination agencies who have begun the onboarding process to start screening the non-residential waiver participants. We're very excited to gain feedback from them on utilizing this tool. So please be on the lookout for upcoming webinars in which we will be providing information directly targeted to individuals who are waiver participants, as well as their family and caregivers. So if you or someone you know has an interest in the Missouri HRST process, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at moddhurstproject@dmh.mo.gov, and we will drop that email address for you in the chat. Also, please mark our HRST or HRST webpage as one of your favorites for easy access. We are working on enhancing that page to provide more resources and information, and we'll drop that website in the chat for you as well. One of my final updates for you this morning will be sharing information again on the dental pilot project that individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities can utilize for free to be able to receive dental care. In collaboration with the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health and support from the Missouri Developmental Disabilities Council, there is an opportunity for individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, or IDD, to obtain dental care in their own homes. This pilot dental telehealth project is currently able to serve 125 people with IDD. Some of the services that they do provide include x-rays, exams, cleanings, fillings, and extractions. While these services may be covered through Medicaid, there is also a bundle package pricing for preventative services and reduced treatment fee schedules. So if you're interested in participating, or if you know people that are interested in participating, you have to fill out a consent form, which we will drop that consent form link in the chat as well. This will need to be completed and submitted. And for additional information, we also have a program flyer that will also drop in the chat. If a county that you currently live in is not served, that's on the list, you may still reach out because there's a potential that they will expand based on the interest and need. Let's see. So those will be in the chat for you. And then a lot more details and information on what to expect you can find on that pamphlet. It's a really simple process. You just fill out the consent form, submit it to the email address provided, and Enable Dental will follow up with you. You can see the steps on the program flyer of how they work with the individual served to best fit their needs. Also, just a reminder, it is in the person's best interest to have routine dental checkups and cleanings so that they don't get to the point in which they need, serious dental care like extractions or sedation dentistry. Those situations, of course, can be serious and have some serious negative outcomes for the individuals that we serve. So it's important not to wait to access dental care. This program is currently running through October. So don't wait too long before that you get signed up or get your individuals signed up. There are still 65 slots available out of that 125. So plenty of room for people to get the help that they need for dental care. Also, we will drop a link in the chat for you This link will be how you would access an email blast that we had previously sent out to you guys. And also the documents that we talked about, the consent form and the flyer, are within that email blast as well. If anybody has any questions for me?
Denise, the only thing that someone did happen to drop in, and I believe we mentioned it previously. If you mentioned it today, I apologize that I missed it. Right now, this is just for select counties, but if there are folks outside of that county that are interested, they should still go ahead and submit the information because they're looking to expand. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a select list on that that flyer document, but if you're outside of that, please go ahead and submit it because there's a chance you might still be able to get in. They are looking to expand. It's a great program and we should really utilize it.
Fantastic. And that's the only question that I see on there. And I believe that wraps us up for today, unless there's any other last minute questions that folks might have. And if we happen to miss those, as always, you are welcome to send an email to ddmail@dmh.mo.gov. And thanks for joining us today. Have a good weekend.